And in Colorado, it's a fitness test that stands between the young black-footed ferrets and a life in the wild.
It's kind of like sending the kids off to their first day of school.
They have 30 days to prove that they can live like wild ferrets. If they make the grade, they'll go back to the wild at one of the release sites. Program leader Paul Marinari has a series of outdoor pens where the kits and their mums can learn the basics of life in the wild.
So the ferret bus has landed at pen C7, so I'm just gonna place them in here by one of the burrows. And you have to wonder what's going through their minds. They spent their first 90 days in a relatively small cage, and now they come out here and it's like, wow, big world, grass, wind, rain, snow, you know, coyotes howling in the distance. So it's that next step.
Their mum has been in one of these pens before and quickly gives her new accommodation the once over. Kits are likely to take more than a bit of persuading before they dare step foot into this brave new world.
The mom's trying to get the kits out of the box and into the burrow, and the kits are trying to get mom from the burrow into the box. You have to imagine they spent their first 90 days, that's home to them. So it's that one step out of that box. It's a totally different world.
Mum has a total of 5 reluctant youngsters to try to coax out into an uncertain future.
Anytime you deal with captive animals, you're going to see not only the births, which are very exciting, but also the mortalities. They may not all survive to be released into the wild.
So, what's on the agenda? It's all about learning to live in burrows and eating unfamiliar food. And eventually, they're going to have to learn to catch their own supper in the form of live prairie dogs. While one family starts this 30-day preparation process, another is finishing theirs. So Paul's going to gather them up for stage 3.
We put mom and 3 kits in this pen a little more than a month ago, so we're trying to trap them up. These 3 kits are scheduled for reintroduction in New Mexico. Yep, you can see the kit. It's a female kit. It's a little heavy, but not too bad. And that chatter they make is just agitation chatter that they have. But we'll get them inside and get them all ready to go.
3 more ferrets going back to the wild is great news. But before they can leave for good, they have to go through one more process. First, they need 2 vaccinations, one against canine distemper and the other against sylvatic plague, a disease fatal to the ferrets. On top of this, they get a thorough health check, a dose of antibiotics and a transponder, all designed to give them the best possible chance of survival.
It's the same thing as a microchip that you put in dogs and cats. It's just a unique identification number, and we'll just make sure.
In total, 12 kits are going to be released this time round. Today, a box in Colorado, and tomorrow, a new life living wild on the plains of New Mexico.
There's a special delivery for the vets at RCAST Rescue Centre. Animals find their way here from all over Guatemala, most of them victims of the illegal pet trade. With over 700 animals of all shapes and sizes, the centre is already at full capacity. But they try to turn no one away.
You give me a hand.
The latest arrival is just 1 month old.
We've got a baby spider monkey here, given up to the authorities in Guatemala City. They sent her up to us. People keeping monkeys as pets is sadly quite common. The only way to get a baby monkey like her is to kill the mother and then keep this little baby orphan within a human environment.
Alejandro Morales has dedicated his life to saving animals and trained as a vet so that he could make a difference.
All right, yep, bring it in.
His partner, Anna Bryant, is a zoologist from New Zealand and takes care of all the young orphaned animals that come through the door.
It's a very traumatic time for them. They've been ripped away from their mother and they've been stuck in a box or in a car for God knows how long, so it's for the best that she's here now.
The baby monkey is now at the start of a 5-year journey through the rescue centre, which will culminate with her release back into the wild. After a period in quarantine, she will join up with other rescued spider monkeys to form their own troop. Here, she will hopefully find a mate and go on to rear her own young. Eventually, her troop will be moved into a much larger enclosure within the forest. This will be the final stage of their rehabilitation.
The dry season is here. Now all life converges on the river. Herders from far and wide are bringing their flocks to the last of the water. Predators are closing in. With so many animals near the river, it's the best place to get a meal. They aren't welcome here. On the edge of the riverbank, a lion has the ideal vantage point. All the other animals now risk an ambush on their way to water. In Samburu, lions are the biggest killers of baby elephants. Harmattan must take extra care of Breeze as she leads the winds to the drying river. The newly exposed sand is a fun place for Breeze and the other young elephants to play. The activity flushes up insects, which in turn attract birds. Two birds are twice as much fun. But Breeze needs to pay attention. With lions around, she's vulnerable if she moves too far from Harmattan's side. She's lost. This elephant is not her mother. Her panic's clear. At last, she sees her mother. They're safely reunited. But Breeze must learn to be careful.
My next stop, Kenya. 4,500 miles from London and a world away from captive breeding. I'm here to meet another animal family, but a family with a difference. Just outside Nairobi is a David Sheldrick Wildlife Trust orphanage, and I'm on the milk round.
Yes, you're right. They're babies' bottles. They're just very big babies' bottles.
Okay.
Project manager Edwin Lusici wanted to become a priest. 12 years ago, he decided to minister to an entirely different congregation.
Look, running for breakfast. Somebody's hungry.
So good, so good, so good, so good. This elephant.
Lift the bottle. She's accepted me.
Yeah, she has.
Now, these are all orphan baby elephants. Their mothers have all died. They've either been killed or died of natural causes, so some of them had the most appalling start in life. But they're safe here.
Most orphans have lost their mums to poachers supplying the ivory trade. It's still a huge problem, and estimates put the numbers of adults killed as high as 4,000 a year.
But the ambition is not just to keep these elephants alive, it's much greater than that. The hope is that they can return every single one of these orphans to the wild.
Recovery from the trauma is a long process, as Edwin knows only too well.
They saw the mothers being killed. They saw their families being separated from them. And since the elephants have got a very strong memory, they will remember that for the rest of their life.
It's not enough just to provide the physical care these babies need.
Some of them are stressed to an extent that they can die.
They can die just from
Stress
so much
and
stress.
trauma.
Yes.
They need protection, they need care, they need love. And this is what we provide to them.
Edwin and his team have to become their family and earn their trust. In the wild, elephants live in family groups, and like our families, they live, love and learn, surrounded by others. So the keepers become mum, dad, auntie, uncle, and most important, friends. These babies need 24-hour, 365 days a year care.
Ow!
And they return that love in spades, even to a visitor like me.
Okay. I know I should have got a haircut, but I'd rather you didn't give it to me, please, by pulling. Mutara and I are establishing quite a strong bond.
Mutara is one of the youngest orphans here. She's just 7 months old. And just like human kids, she has her own security blanket, which also keeps her warm.
Bliss. She's gorgeous, but the story of her early life is absolutely tragic.
Mutara was found alone by a roadside in northern Kenya. She was thought to be just 7 days old. Her mother was probably killed for her tusks, and she was so weak she wasn't expected to survive. Here she is, 7 months on, perfectly healthy, loved and cherished. Elephants have a similar life expectancy to us. In the wild, babies aren't weaned until they're around 2 years old, and until then, they rely totally on mother's milk. But with no mothers around, Finding the right sort of milk was a massive problem and threatened the whole programme, as orphanage founder Dame Daphne Sheldrick told me.
I just can't remember how many died in my can. We tried this milk, we tried that milk, we got the analysis of elephant's milk from zoos and that, and it was high in fat. And then we tried adding butter, cream, but that killed them quicker. And then I tried giving them just skim milk with no cow's milk fat, and they lived longer, but they just wasted away. So then I knew it was a fat problem. And so then I went round looking for human baby formulas that had vegetable oils rather than cow's milk fat. And then we were on the right track.
30 years of research and dedication paid off. The success rate with orphans has soared and has paid dividends for Mutara, who would almost certainly have died but for the success of the substitute milk.
The otter family have cubs. Seeing otter cubs in the wild like this is extremely rare. Charlie counts 6 tiny cubs, a record number, making a grand total of 15 family members. Diablo and his mate Sophia are certainly playing their part in helping to maintain the survival of giant otters in this part of the Amazon. But so many cubs will be quite a handful. The family will certainly have their work cut out keeping them out of danger. The first thing the cubs need to learn is how to swim. So this family outing is actually a swimming lesson. Strangely, otter cubs don't actually like water, so lessons like this one are essential. There's one cub in particular who catches the eye. Not because he's muddier than the others, but because he really doesn't like the water. Despite Mum's best efforts, all he wants to do is get back to the warmth and security of the den. The other cubs all seem to be enduring their swimming lesson. Some even look like they're starting to get the hang of it. But this little cub's just not having it. So in the end, there's nothing for it but to just pick him up and dunk him in the water. As cubs, all of the otters here are given names to help any scientist studying them. It seems fitting to give this cub a name appropriate to Lake Salvador. So Charlie calls him Darley. Even with the protection of a big family, the early months of a cub's life can be the most perilous. Learning to swim is just the first danger to overcome. Only around a third of all these giant otter cubs will make it to adulthood. At this age, the cubs tire easily, so it's not long before their swimming lesson is over and they're taken back to the warmth and safety of the den.